saw that the car was turning in and going straight up the grassy incline to the door. Mrs. Hollister, lying comfortably among her cushions, was looking at the evening sky, hearing a bird that reminded her of long ago, and scarcely noticed they had turned off until the car stopped. Then in silent joy the children swarmed out of the car, and with one consent stood back and watched mother as the strong young man came to the open door and gathered her in his arms once more. " Now we're almost home, Mrs. Hollister," he said pleasantly. " Just put your arms around my neck once more, and we'll soon have you beside your own fire." He lifted her and bore her in to the wide couch before the crackling fire that Elizabeth had started just before she went to look out the door the last time. Then into the blazing light of the transformed barn they all stepped, and every one stood back and stared, blinking. What was this? What wondrous perfume met their senses? What luxury? What flowers? What hangings? They stood and stared and could not understand, and between them they forgot to wonder what their mother was thinking, or to do a thing but stupidly stare and say, " Why ?" and " Oh !" and " Ah !" half under their breath. " Just phone me if you need anything, Miss Hollister, please. I shall be glad to serve you," said Graham, stepping quickly over to the door. " Mrs. Hollister, I hope you'll be none the worse for your ride," and he slipped out the door and was gone. The sound of the car softly purring its way backward down the slope brought Shirley out of her daze, but when she turned and understood that he was gone the car was just backing into the road, turning with a quick whirl, and was away before she could make him hear. " Oh, he's gone !" she cried out, turning in dismay to the children. " He's gone, and we never thanked him !" George was out down the road like a shot, and the rest, forgetful for the moment of the invalid who had been the great anxiety all day, crowded at the door to watch him. They could hear the throbbing of the machine. They heard it stop down the road and start again almost immediately, growing fainter with every whir as it went farther from them. In a moment more George came running back. " He's gone. He meant to, I guess, so we could have it all to ourselves right at first. Elizabeth and the man were down the road waiting for him. They've been dolling the place up to surprise us." " Oh !" said Shirley, turning to look around, her cheeks growing rosy. " Oh, isn't it beautiful !" Then turning swiftly to the couch and kneeling, she said, " Oh, mother !"" What does it all mean, daughter ?" asked the bewildered mother, looking about on the great room that seemed a palace to her sad eyes. But they all began to clamor at once, and she could make nothing of it. " Oh, Shirley, look at the curtains ! Aren't they perfectly dear ?" cried Carol ecstatically. " Perf'ly dear !" echoed Doris, dancing up and down gleefully. " And here's a card, with love from Elizabeth. Isn't it sweet of her? Isn't she a perfect darling?" " Who is Elizabeth ?" asked Mrs. Hollister, rising to her elbow and looking around. " Gee ! Look at the flowers !" broke in George. " It's like our store at Easter. I say, those lilies are pretty keen, aren't they, Shirl?" " Wait till you see the dining room !" called Harley, who was investigating with the help of his nose. " Some supper table ! Come on quick ! I'm starved. Hello ! Hustle here quick ! Here's another signboard." They followed to the dining room. Harley, still following his nose, pursued his investigations to the kitchen, discovered the source of the savory odors that were pervading the place, and raised another cry so appreciative that the entire family, with the exception of the invalid, followed him and found the supper steaming hot and crying to be eaten. After the excitement was somewhat quieted Shirley took command. " Now, children, you're getting mother all excited, and this won't do. And besides, we must eat this supper right away before it spoils. Quiet down and bring the hot things to the table while I get mother's things off. Then we will tell her all about it. There's plenty of time, you know. We're going to stay right here all summer." " Aw, gee ! Can't we bring mother out to the table ?" pleaded George. " Harley and I could lift that couch just as easy." " Why, I don't know," said Shirley, hesitating. " You know she isn't strong, and she will worry about you lifting her." " Oh, Shirley, let her come !" pleaded Carol. " We could all take hold and wheel the couch out here. You know the floor is real smooth since those new boards were put in, and those are good casters on the couch." " Mother, mother, you're coming out to supper !" they chorused, rushing back to the living room, and before the invalid realized what was happening her couch was being wheeled carefully, gleefully into the brilliantly lighted dining room, with Doris like a fairy sprite dancing attendance and shouting joyously: "Mudder's tumin' to suppy, Mudder's tumin' to suppy again." The mother stared in amazement at the royally spread table, so smothered in flowers that she failed to recognize the cracked old blue dishes. " Children, I insist. She raised her voice above the happy din. " I insist on knowing immediately what all this means. Where are we, and what is this? A hotel? And who is the person who brought us here? I cannot eat anything nor stay here another minute until I know. People can't rent houses like this for $10 a month anywhere, and I didn't suppose we had come to charity, even if I am laid up for a few days." Shirley could see the hurt in her mother's eyes and the quick alarm in her voice, and came around to her couch smiling. " Now, mother dear, we'll tell you the whole thing. It isn't a hotel we're in, and it isn't a house at all. It's only an old barn." "A barn!" Mrs. Hollister sat up on her couch alertly and looked at the big bowl of roses in the middle of the table, at the soft, flowing curtains at the window, and the great pot of Easter lilies on the little stand in front, and exclaimed: "Impossible!" " But it is really, mother. Just a grand old stone barn. Look at the walls. See, those two over there are just rough stones, and this one back of you is a partition made of common boards. That's only an old brown denim curtain over there to hide the kitchen, and we've got the old red chenille curtains up to partition off the bedrooms. The boys are going to sleep up in the hayloft, and it's going to be just great." Mrs. Hollister looked wildly at the stone walls back at the new partition, recognized one by one the ancient chairs, the old bookcase now converted into a china closet, the brown denim curtain that had once been a cover for the dining room floor in the little brick house. Now it was washed and mended, and was doing its faded part to look like a wall and fit into the scheme of things. She darted questioning glances at the wealth of flowers and the abundantly set table, then settled back on her pillow, but half satisfied. " They don't have curtains in a barn," she remarked dryly. " Those are a present from Elizabeth, the little sister of the landlord. She was out here with him when he came to see about things, and she got acquainted with Carol. She has put up those curtains and brought the flowers and fixed the table for a surprise. See, mother?" And Shirley brought the card on which Elizabeth had printed her crude welcome. Mrs. Hollister took the card as if it were some sort of a life preserver, and smiled with relief. " But this is a great deal to do for strangers," she said tremblingly, and tears began to glitter in her eyes. " They must be wealthy people." " Yes, mother, I think they are," said Shirley, " and they have been most kind." " But, daughter, wealthy people do not usually take the trouble to do things like that for nothing, and $10 a month for a barn could be nothing to them." " I know, mother, but he seems very well satisfied with the price," said Shirley with a troubled brow. " I " Something's burning !" yelled Harley at the top of his lungs from the kitchen, and immediately they all rushed out to rescue the supper, which took that moment to assert itself. " Now, mother," said Shirley, coming in with a big tureen of soup, " we've got to eat this supper or it will spoil. You're not to ask another question till we are through." They all settled expectantly down at the table, Doris climbing joyously onto her high chair, calling: "Suppy! Suppy! Oh, goody!" Such a clatter and clamor, such shoutings over the sandwiches, and such jumpings up and down to carry something to mother! Such lingering over the delicious ice cream and fresh strawberries that were found in the freezer! Think of it! Real strawberries for them that time of year! Then, when they had eaten all they could and began to realize that it was time to get mother to bed, they pushed the chairs back and all fell to clearing off the table and putting things away. It was Carol who discovered the big roasted fowl and the bowl of salad set away in the tiny ice box, ready for to morrow. How had Elizabeth, who never kept house in her life, known just what would be nice for a family that were all tired out with moving and needed to lie back and rest before started on with living? The dishes were almost washed when the cart arrived with the last load of things, and the drayman helped George to put up mother's bed. They wheeled the couch into the living room after the big doors were closed and safely fastened for the night. Before the glowing fire Shirley helped mother to undress, then rolled her couch into the bedroom and got her to bed. " Do you mind very much that it is only a barn, mother dear?" questioned Shirley, bending anxiously over her mother after she was settled. " I can't make it seem like a barn, dear. It seems a palace," said the mother with a tremble in her voice. " I'm glad it's a barn, because we could never afford a house with space like this, and air." She threw out her hands as if to express her delight in the wide rooms, and drew in a breath of the delicious country air, so different from air of the dusty little brick house in the city. " Daughter," she drew Shirley down where she could whisper to her, " you're sure he is not looking on us as objects of charity, and you're sure he understands that you are a self respecting girl earning her honorable living and paying her way? You know this is a wicked, deceitful world we